I'm coming back to this motherboard. Now, this motherboard had, well, it came out of a console that had no sound whatsoever. There's no sound out of the speakers, no sound out of the headphone jack. After opening it up, I noticed that there was some good water damage. Grab a pick. There's good water damage and corrosion around the main chip that's responsible for sound. Especially two of the pins, just the solder traces were, or the solder joints were just completely corroded away. Ended up replacing the chip with one off a donor board, and still the same problem. No sound whatsoever. And all of the joints looked good, and as far as I can tell, everything was fine. All of the water damage was kind of localized right here. There was a little strip up here, but that seemed to be mostly benign. So, what I did notice though is that the speakers were humming. So, power was going to the top screen speakers, and I knew the top screen speakers worked, but they just weren't receiving any sound. Neither was the headphone jack. So, there was something up with the chip. Now, I kind of poked and prodded at it, which in this case would have been yesterday, and I couldn't really find anything too conclusive. I just kind of set it aside for a little while. I got some food, played a little bit of FTL, just sort of chilled, and then I ended up getting back to it last night and did a voltage comparison on all of the pins of the chip. Actually, I have this upside down, versus a bad board and a good board. And most of the voltages aligned 3.3, 3.3, all of them where you would expect, ground, ground, until I started hitting to differences like pin 13, where the bad board had 0 volts, the good board had around a volt going into it. So after looking into it a little closer, well, once I got all the voltage comparisons, there's quite a few differences here and there. But once I got through all of them, I started going down one by one, and, well, pin 13 ended up leading somewhere very specific. So, get that under my microscope. So pin 13 is this one right down here. This one leads down to these, like, pads. And I thought these were just, like, empty pads that could house a capacitor or resistor or whatever. But according to the schematic and just through voltage reading, there's actually a trace connecting these two pads. So I'm not actually entirely sure what the point of these pads are. But what happened is there was some water damage here, and it ended up severing the trace right between the pad and the via. So that was keeping it from getting 1 volt. And put it together in a test rig, and I could hear sound coming out of the speakers. It seemed to work just fine. I didn't do much testing beyond that, but just that little tiny trace just in between that pad and the via was enough to pretty much kill the sound of the entire board. Like, I thought those were empty pads, so I didn't even really give them much mind, but since there's a trace connecting them, they are as important as any other trace. And I didn't do too much probing from there, but just that 1 volt going into pin 13 was important enough. Either coming from or going into pin 13. I actually don't know the directionality of it, but I guess it doesn't really matter. It's 1 volt either way. There were a couple other differences, but just a little bit of probing here and there, it seemed like that pin 13 was the most important. I'll keep this handy just in case any other problems come up, because that chip is responsible for, like, the touch interface, mainly the sound and microphone, so I'll be keeping an eye out on that when I get to those tests. For now, though, I need to get the charge port replaced, which I did get one prepped. This is always a fun process. Let me get a bit of bite on it right there. Probably get some new solder on it just to help it liquefy a little easier. I feel like some of this old solder just, like, holds on to the holds onto it really hard, and then when I end up trying to take the charge port off, it rips off the mounting traces, or the mounting pads. Because there's a couple mounting pads flanking the charge port that, well, will give way if you heat it too much. I'm just gathering some stuff. So I'm just gonna put a crap load of solder on it. I'll clean it up when I get the port off. The through hole traces usually don't have a problem. I'll just put some on there anyway. I'm almost kind of wondering if I can add flux to the edge of the board to kind of protect it from being charred when I put hot air on it. So I haven't quite figured out how I can unsolder these without sort of charring the edge of the board. The only real way I can do that is if I cut the charge port off, but that's kind of an aggressive procedure. I really don't like harming my cutters more than I need to. Oh, there we go. You know, I suppose I could just heat it from this side and just let it drop off. I know some HDMI ports are kind of done like this as well. You just heat it the board from the back side and just let the port drop out when it's done. I just don't know if the weight of the charge port would be enough to take some pads or traces with it. That's why I usually like a little more control of how it drops, but I mean, nothing ventured, I suppose. I guess it just wasn't heavy enough to drop off on its own. I'll have to inspect the other side when I get to it. Felt like it came off pretty easily. Doesn't look like it took any pads with it, so I think this was a successful operation. Very good, very good. Yeah, I might want a thicker. Something I could transfer a little heat a little better. It was a very successful operation. I dare say I'm getting better at it. Keep my tools clean. Looks like I still charred the edge of the board a little. That might just be something I really can't avoid unless I like really take some like counter heat measures. I didn't singe it that bad, but it's a little blackened. It's more aesthetically unpleasing than anything. Doesn't harm anything. Get a little more aggressive with my brushing. Cleaning off the flux only to apply more is a little counterintuitive, but this old flux can kind of get coagulated and turn into like a tar. And I won't need much flux to put the thing on. I just needed a lot for it to take it off. Or at least I chose to use a lot. Whether or not I needed it is, I guess, debatable, but I'd rather have too much than too little. Even if it does make the cleaning a little more tedious. Now the fun task of getting the new one put on and aligned. Because the new charge port, I don't know if they made these to be a little more universal across different board types, but they have thinner through leg holes, or thinner through hole legs. And considering how big these through holes are, I have to kind of line them up manually, or else either they sit too far back or they sit too far forward, and that can affect how it fits inside the shell. So I really only just have to reference another board to see how far it sits out and just kind of eyeball it. Because the the OEM style ports the through hole legs are a lot bigger. So they sit in their little oval slots a lot better. Almost self-align. But since I have so much play on these new ports, I have to sort of line them manually. Not exactly rocket science. I don't have to have them perfect. But if it sits too far back, it will impact how the board fits inside the shell, even to the point of where it just won't fit at all. I think I got it pretty close. Put a little booger right there. I need to swap. Actually, no, I don't need to swap iron tips. I just need to get enough solder on this leg so that it will hold it in place. Kind of check it one more time. Okay, I think that's pretty darn close. Okay. Got that first leg on. Gotta get the other one on, and I should be good enough to remount it all the way. Okay. Beautiful. Just need to get the two main contact points for the charge port itself, and that should be good. Change irons. I really need to get another station for this iron tip. This is a much finer tip. I didn't expect to be using it as much as I have. But my other angled tip is currently busted. I need to get a new one. That will do it. I want to check. Looks pretty good. Just gonna check the volt. Check my voltmeter just to make sure those points are actually connected. Should be. Never hurts to double check. This will also check for the fuse as well. Cool. And while I'm here, I might as well reflow those components. There's a fuse and a filter that can sometimes have bad solder joints. Will cause issues with charging. Since I'm here, I already have flux on the board. I'll just do a little more work. Might add a little more solder on the side of this filter. That should do it. rubbing alcohol sitting on there while I grab some more. Start dissolving that flux. At least as much as it can. It does a little, but I find that it doesn't really dissolve too terribly well at a certain point. It is starting to work. Make sure I don't have any flux packed in the backlight connector. Sometimes it just sort of works its way in there. As well as inside the charge port as well. While I'm here, I might as well give the game card slot a little courtesy cleaning. Well, why I do say that's probably one of my finest charge port repair jobs. Not many of those I can proudly put my hat, or wear my hat on, put my hat on, whatever the expression is, but I mean, did I use a little too much solder for the two main contact points? I sure did. But the mounting pads have very solid connections on them. Both the main contact points are good, the fuse as well as EM1. On the back, the through holes are nice and solid connections. I'm very pleased with that. Cool. Just really want to make sure this is nice and clean. And I remember there being a little corrosion up here, so I wanted to, since I'm getting everything a brush, I'll just make sure everything is nice and good. All right. kind of take a moment to dry. I'm gonna get a new paper towel. Clean off my pick a little better. It's a little sticky still. I mean, good enough. Okay. Get this motherboard back in the shell it came from and see kind of where we're sitting at now. Like, are we good enough to fully test? Sort of what my current status is. See if there's any other issues regarding that main sound chip. I don't think there is, because I did check the other pads that were next to it. Those, like, through pads. They all tested fine. There was no other break. That was the only break I could find. But I also didn't do an extensive voltage testing through the through this board. I didn't check every pin again. Because I found the one error, and once I corrected that error, it seemed to fix the main problem. So I'll just have to see if that's the only problem. Everything is still together, which is perfect. Let's just see now where we rest with this console. Was that the only issue? Probably. That's where all of the water damage was more or less isolated. There was some up near the up here, so we'll have to check that. Trying to think which one that is. I think that's for the SD card slot as well as the shoulder button. Oh, I was going to grab another paper towel. Might be a little bit of flux packed in this little wire holder. I mean, it shouldn't have been enough to make that big of a problem. Huh. Oh yeah, it's flux, alright. Seems a lot harder than usual, though. Almost like glue. Odd. Goes in there fine now. I don't think I've ever had to deal with that before. Though I've never done this type of extensive work over here before. To the degree that required so much flux. Okay. A little bad juju to be putting in some screws before I verify that the thing works. I'm just going to put in a couple and then just make sure that the console boots. I mean, it should. I did get it to boot in a test rig, so I know it does. But it never hurts to just triple check before I get putting it all together. Ah, beautiful sound. Love it. Let's get it fully together. Then I'll start actually performing tests on it. Which is a beautiful thing to say. What an interesting problem. At least I know now that those are not just empty pads. Those pads are also connected to each other for reasons I don't understand. So not only are they empty, but they're also connected. Which sort of completely negates the reason for pads in the first place if they're already connected. Unless you're like running an inline component. Which I don't think that's really how components work. What I need to make sure before I get too far here, I need to make sure I do have my notes on this. Okay, I think I do. Yeah, needs charge port. I will have to sort of check this off as I go. Charge port has been added. No sound at all, nothing out of the headphones. Replaced U4. Buzz and hum, broken trace. On, what was it? It was pad CL37. Yeah. Broken trace on CL37. Perfect. Oh, I don't need this pencil. So my other sound chip is probably fine. That was never the problem to begin with, but I mean, it was worth trying to replace. It did have 2 solder pads that were solder traces that were eaten away. So I found it somewhat likely that that chip was somehow compromised because of that. Either traces were bridged because of corrosion, or the corrosion that ate away the solder connections went up into the chip, which that did not seem to be the case, thankfully, but it was a little hard to verify from the outside without actually looking underneath it. As far as I could tell, it really could have been anything. Like, there could have been rampant corrosion underneath that big ground pad. I dare say that charge port went in really nicely. It's nice and flush. A little bit. I mean, it's not perfectly flush in there. It's sitting in a little further than I usually like, but I mean, it won't harm anything. The shell went together just fine. If it was having a problem closing, that would be another problem, but there's a bit of forgiveness in the shell, just not much. I've mounted these charge ports a little too far back, and it just keeps the shell from closing. Lesson learned, but as much as I'd like to get like OEM style charge ports, I can't find any. Just whatever those really thin through hole legs, or whatever they would be called. That's all I can find. It's interesting how these black screws will pick up on the blue plastic shell. These are plastic cutting screws. At least from what I understand. And they seem to grab onto the plastic a lot more on the blue. Actually kind of rip it out. I don't know if it's like the pigment or something. Just something I've noticed, that the blue pigment seems to transfer a lot easier than the other color schemes. Or the blue consoles that I get are always in worse shape than the other color schemes. I suppose that's also possible. This battery shall suffice. Ah, beautiful. Shoulder buttons feel good. All right. So let me grab my testing form. So I'll be running just a series of just pass-fail tests that I usually save. This is the form I use for my completed sort of refurbished consoles, which this is a little far from. And I'll be mainly looking at this category down here. These are just my pass and fails. These are all cosmetic, subjective testings that I do when I assess how much I should be selling these consoles for. But since this one is not cleaned, and it's not cleaned, so I'm gonna have to take the shell completely apart and wash all the pieces separately. That's a problem for later, so I'll be focusing on these. So the first test is motherboard and power board. Easy test. I'm basically looking, does the console turn on? Yes. Does it open up an application? Which I did factory reset it, so I do know it turns on. I do need to grab this version number. It's running 1.4.5, which is the latest version. And then the U denotes that it's an American region console. So other than blaring sound out the speakers, seems to all be good in that front. I do want to look at the screens real quick. There is a pretty good scratch on the top screen lens, so I want to mark that. Just basically do a unceremonious X. There's a pretty good scratch here on the bottom screen as well. Those X's just tell me that the lens and the digitizer just need to be replaced. Like, that's not optional. They're too damaged. And I mean, other than the top screen maybe being a little more red, I kind of detect a little bit of yellowing here on the corners. I'd say these screens are not horrible. They're definitely usable. I do want to divert from my testing though, and there's a couple optional tests I do. I guess that's not optional, but they're sort of one-time tests. Let me slot in Mario Kart. I need to check to see if the console will enter and exit sleep. Which, drop a magnet over the magnetically sensitive component. Both screens turn off, I don't hear anything in the speakers, and the power light is breathing in and out. So the console is entering sleep. Correctly, move the magnet. Christ almighty, that's loud. I'm going to turn that down. The next step I want to do is look for image retention in either of these screens, which I don't think I have done yet on this console. I could have done it yesterday. I don't remember. But basically what that is I'm going to sit on these screens for about 2 minutes and swap over to the settings menu. The settings menu is just gray and black, so, sort of like solid screens basically, and I really can't explain it, but there's something about the settings menu, maybe it's just because of the colors, that if these screens are having issues, if these screens are old, starting to fail, the checkered board pattern, the text, these giant buttons, you'll be able to see them in the settings menu when you're not supposed to, because the screen is supposed to refresh, however LCD technology works. If the, per se, the liquid crystals, if they're not refreshing fast enough, if they're just holding on to images, then that means they're starting to fail. At least from what I can tell. Either way, it's not a pleasant experience when your screens are retaining images. So things like it almost behaves like an OLED burn-in a sense, where you'll see like UI elements like stuck on your screen while you're trying to play. Apparently, one of the consoles that I sold ended up having this. I didn't even know was a thing at the time. And apparently they were finding that assets in Pokemon Platinum were being stuck on the screen. So when they were doing other things, you could almost clearly see those assets. I think I still have those screen. I think I have that screen kicking around still. I've been meaning to put it into a image retention console just to sort of visualize it, to see how bad it can really get. And maybe even look for any remedies, if anything at all. I think it's just, those screens are just too far gone. I'll give it 30 seconds or so. Get some water. It's really interesting how it can retain the image, because my understanding is LCDs can't get that, but if the liquid crystals are, I don't know, just starting to age and they're not as fast to refresh, I suppose it's possible for them to retain an image. Okay, so let me swap over to settings menu. Oh, I don't see anything. I think we're good. Now there is sort of like the shadowing that happens. There was a term for it I was introduced to. I don't remember what it was, but this is normal from what I can tell. But the top screen, I don't see the checkerboard pattern. I don't see DSI sounds up there. So everything looks good, at least from what I can tell. And when I soft refresh the console, how sort of the screen's refresh can sort of also betray their age, though I can't exactly correlate them to failing screens. Though I do know if the screens are starting to die, if you're soft resetting it, you can almost clearly see the DSI sounds menu, like in like a negative footage, so the colors are inverted. And just sort of the way the screens sort of reignite, so to speak, if they sort of bloom out from the center instead of like uniformly turning on. That can also be a potential symptom of the screen starting to fail. I can't exactly correlate the soft resetting to failing screens, but I have noticed that they tend to run parallel, where if the screen is retaining an image, it will have a problem sort of refreshing, so to speak. Anyway, I'm going to move on to tactile buttons, which is all the tactile buttons. I'm going to do that with my DS Pico. What's nice about the Pico is I can insert it, soft refresh the console, and it will auto boot. Does it save me any time? Not really, but it is kind of nice to... it saves me a little bit of time, especially when I transfer over. Well, I won't do a touchscreen test, actually, because I'm going to be replacing this digitizer. I might do one, just a quick one, because I might use this screen in my, or use the digitizer in sort of my testing lot of pieces. Because I like having testing components to test motherboards with, so I'm not stressing out otherwise good components. Like, I have screens that have, like, internal water damage that I really can't do anything with. And just having a digitizer, I won't have to sacrifice a new digitizer. Anyway, so for the tactile buttons, won't do anything too fantastic here. I'll just press all the face buttons a dozen or so times. Face buttons themselves, I'm not worried about. There was some water damage on this board, so I do kind of want to pay extra attention just in case maybe there's some water damage I missed, or if any of it got underneath the buttons. So far, it looks like those are all good. The problems are usually the shoulder buttons. Those tend... I don't know if it's just the switch style, maybe their location, but they tend to be the ones that have the most issues. I'll spend a little extra time with them. So far, I'm very happy with that R button. Ooh, this L button, however. I am getting a response from it. So when when I lightly press down and hear a click, like when I feel the click of the button, it will sometimes not register. But then when I sort of press all the way down and bottom out the button, it is registering. So I might be able to clean that button and have it come back to life. Like even now as I press it more, it seems to be a little more reactive. Okay, so I'll give that one a clean. And I'll just have to set that L button aside for now. Let me just do a quick test on the touchscreen. I'm not going to use this touchscreen, but it would be nice to just have a good one kicking around to put on a testing screen. Seems to be fine. Alright, next is speaker, microphone, and headphone jack. I'm going to combo this with an SD card slot test wherever my SD card went. Oh, here it is. Okay. This will be kind of a critical test, more so than usual. I think I usually have to put my SD card in before I start this application. I think it might be fine. So, since I can't test the volume buttons are the only ones I can't test in that program, because there was no, like, indicator, but going in the DSI sounds menu, I found this to be the best indicator. If the volume buttons work, it looks like the volume up is kind of having some problems. I mean, it's not... Seems to be okay now. Okay. La 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 la. La 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 la. Microphone seems to work just fine. And then for my SD card, looks like it reads my SD card. I'm basically looking to see if it can read the contents of an SD card. If it can do that, I assume the SD card slot's fine. I really have no reason to test it further than this. But what I'm going to do is play this piece of music, listen to both speakers, plug in my earbuds, listen to both channels. Perfect. So that checks out. All the channels worked, earbuds worked. Very pleased. Next is cameras. I don't do anything too spectacular here. I just make sure both camera units boot and show an image. Relatively clear image, nothing like weirdly distorted. Like, here's the front-facing camera. It looks, I mean, it's not great, but it's a DSi camera, so what do you expect? It's fine. I don't notice anything too terribly weird. Charge port's next. Now, unlike the speaker sound issues, charge ports are fairly easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in. New charge port, so there we go. Software's telling me it's charging, console's telling me it's charging, it's pulling 0.5 amps. Close the console, just jiggle the charge port around. That orange light is staying on, so that's telling me that my solder job is good. And the port I put in is good. The solder joints aren't broken, so the jiggling around the charge cable isn't disconnecting it from the board momentarily. Ooh, yeah, that new charge port feel, because it kind of clips in there. Looks like maybe there's still just like a tiny bit of flux. Just keep my charge cable nice and clean. Could have been some flux or residual. I wouldn't think it would be residual rubbing alcohol after all this time. Alright. Charge port worked just fine. Have no problems there. So next is the game card slot. Now, I'll be finally utilizing the stack of game cards I have off to the side. I'm only going to test one stack. Should be about 10-ish cards. Not going to do anything too spectacular here. Slot in the card like normal. See if it reads. I'll put some light pressure on it and sort of shift the game card side to side. There's a tiny bit of play in the game card slot. See if the game card disappears. It doesn't. Then I'll increase my pressure on it, so I'll be pushing down on it all the way up until I actually hear the game card slot click to eject the game card, which it just did. So now it's at a point of no return, essentially. It's ejecting the game card. And then I'll go all the way down until I actually bottom out the game card in the slot, which it looks like it is disappearing, but I am holding the game card all the way down. So that's a rather unrealistic scenario to hit naturally, so I don't really pay too much mind to it. Ejected the game card, put it back in. I usually do that a couple times, but then after that I'll smack it against my open palm to see if the game card will disappear, which I feel is a far more realistic scenario of how sort of these consoles are going to be stressed in the wild. Because if that game card disappears while you're playing a game, it will freeze your game or power off the console, or your console will basically crash. And in the era of manual saves, that can be pretty devastating. So this will catch any sort of oddities in the game card slot. At least I think it does a pretty good job catching any, like, if there's any pins that aren't bent up high enough, or maybe they were pushed down a little too far, or maybe if the slot itself is dirty. I'll give this game card slot a cleaning pass. Well, the pins themselves a cleaning pass, a little more than a cotton swab. But so far, it is staying connected the entire time. The mechanism in the game card slot feels pretty good. I have no real complaints there. So far, every time it's been disconnecting is because I've ejected the game card. Nothing too unusual there. Now, I've noticed this with some of the Harry Potter. I think it might have been this Harry Potter game. If I eject it and put it in really quickly, it'll sometimes take a good second for it to appear sometimes. That might just be a game card issue, because I do notice it with one of my 2 Harry Potter games. It could just be this same game card, so I can just chalk that up to just a unique quirk with that game card with some consoles. And I'll do one more, just a SpongeBob game. Okay. Excellent. This game console passed perfectly. Well, mostly the motherboard. Make note of that in its notes. Passed tests. And save for the L button that I need to clean. All the other components are good. So let's strip this down for parts. Grab my screw holder container. Strip it down for parts and get all these pieces cleaned. This console definitely needs to be cleaned. Oh, come on now. Okay, I don't know why it was doing that, but I mean, probably all the crap that's lining this battery compartment isn't helping. I will not forget you, little tiny screw. Get the shoulder buttons apart. Gold and black screws, it looks like. Ew. Yummy. Slot looks good. Whoa. I'll just clean that as well. This console is in kind of dirty state. Ooh. I mean, if anything, something's telling me this button's gonna look a little worse for wear. It's got a little bit of rust on it. It's not that bad. If I'm thinking about it, I'll clean the button immediately. Grab my little bottle cap and fill it full of rubbing alcohol. Just separate these buttons out. Just wipe, see if I can wipe it off a little before I dunk it in. Okay. Then I'll submerge the button all the way and then just press it a bunch. Because these buttons aren't, they're only kind of, they're friction fit together. There's no sort of covering to try and keep water or debris out. Which I don't think was a very good idea. Whether or not making it more sealed would make it a lot more resistant to having issues, I don't know, but the way they did it, I feel like I see a lot more shoulder button issues than pretty much anything when it comes to DSi consoles specifically. Even more so than like charge port issues. It's always shoulder buttons. Oh, press that a bunch, let that dry. I'll just sort of pitch it over here. Alright, rear shell is done. Get the rest of this console apart. Get these screws. Go to the smaller screws. I'm not really looking forward to seeing what the button under the buttoned membranes are going to look like. That is sort of the silicone barrier between the motherboard and the buttons, and they're in consoles that are particularly dirty. They can be pretty ghastly. Oh yeah, there's some type of liquid that got poured on that. That should come off pretty easily. Ooh, even some corrosion up near the LED indicators. I didn't actually check to see if the Wi-Fi light worked. I'm gonna have to check that here after I get the rest of this apart. I should be able to run a diode test through it and ignite those LEDs. And I mean, I could theoretically replace the LEDs. I do have the replacements. I don't know if I have the same colors. It would just have to be a custom job at that point. Actually, these aren't that bad, but I'll clean them anyway. Whatever got poured on this poor thing. Ooh, yeah. That's not supposed to be that color. Mmm. Even the underside of the D-pad is gross. Yay. Plunk. I'll get the power button out a little bit. Okay, no, the motherboard's good. Spent a lot of time with it. Ooh, yum. Okay. Oh, okay. So I guess whatever impacted the console probably came in through the D-pad. I mean, or something, because that's where a lot of whatever that crap is congregating. Ugh. There's a lot of finger goo around those face buttons too. And I mean, when I push on this power button and it's not coming out because it's stuck to something. Ugh. I have to wash my hands real good after this one. Okay, that's good. I'll reopen up that one, get the top screen apart. I have to pick off these pieces of rubber and figure out if I have any spares lying around. I might. But these little rubber pieces are a lot harder to find. Whoa, that's weird. The Wi-Fi antenna is just loose. Usually holds on a little better than that. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and clean that. Oh yeah, there's some liquid right there. Uh-oh, I hope I didn't get into the camera. I mean, the camera unit worked fine. It initialized, and it showed an image. Yeah, looks like it didn't get in. Some type of syrupy something. Okay, I need to get this Wi-Fi card unplugged. I assume the Wi-Fi antenna's fine. It's pretty simple. Microphone I know works. It's not popping out like it usually does, which is a bit concerning. There it goes. It looks fine other than being a little dusty on the front. But I know the microphone works. Unroute the speakers. Grab the little pieces of mesh. Ooh, yummy. Pop out the hinge. I'll use my other tweezers for that. Hinge mechanism worked fine. I had no problem with it. Okay, let's see where that ring will go. Ah, stuck to the bottom shell. Come on. Nope. Come on. Need you to stick to the top screen. Alright, fine. We're gonna do it the hard way. There we go. Now, when I feed the ribbon cables into the channel, it'll come apart. Ooh, that is disgusting. Come on, camera. I know you don't want to look at it, but that is gross. Sort of roll the ribbon cable into itself. Have that little ring hold on to it. Slide my plastic pry tool around the shell to unstick it from the shell with some very light encouragement. A little bit of pinching. Very light encouragement. Comes off. I'm just going to go ahead and wash that ring because I'm going to assume it's bad. Take off these little rubbers and I'm going to have to put this shell piece aside. Put it with my other shell pieces that are missing those little rubber pieces. Put the remaining shell pieces kind of together, try and keep them together at least. Camera's good. I wanted to sort of look at it real quick. Yeah, it looks like whatever crap was on there. I don't see anything that's concerning. Too concerning. I do want to double check that though. I feel like I could see like light corrosion, but I don't want to be... No, it's fine. Okay. I don't want to be looking for things that aren't there. Camera unit's fine. Top screen's also fine. Need to put it over here. Now, what am I going to do about this guy right here? Let's see if I can at least start by cleaning it. Get these LEDs cleaned off. Maybe they just need new solder joints. I didn't really notice if there was anything. I don't think Wi-Fi communications were probably turned off, which is why the Wi-Fi light didn't ignite. Ooh, yeah. Whatever this is coming off nice and easy, as it usually does, whatever the hell it is. A little bit of it did get on the face buttons, but it didn't seem to impact their performance. A little bit of rubbing alcohol on them won't hurt. It will sort of soften up the adhesive used to seal the buttons a little bit. Considering I didn't have a problem with them at all during my testing, I'm not going to spend too much time just to try and get all the superficial stuff off. I did want to just kind of quickly brush this off as well. I did notice there was like a little bit of residual gunk down here. Okay, that's good enough. That piece isn't super important. So let's see here. Let's grab my microscope. See what we're looking at. Get a better image, quite literally. Oh, you can see the rubbing alcohol evaporating. That's kind of fun. I mean, everything looks okay. Let me see if my diode tester will ignite those lights. Untangle my... So I know the power and the charge light work just fine. The majority of the gunk was around the Wi-Fi light, so I'm most concerned about that one. So let's see. I don't think I have a... I wouldn't know a ground pad off the top of my head, so I'll just go ahead and do it the old-fashioned way here. I am going the right way. Maybe that light is bad. Okay, there's the orange light. Oh, let me check the red light. Oh no, I'm backwards. Okay, so let me check. Well, I know the blue light works, but if my probes don't pump out enough power, then... It's igniting it a little, but I don't think it's a connection issue. Okay. Why don't I just turn off my overhead light? Should make it a little easier to see. There's my red light. 1.7 volts. It ignited that very energetically. Same with my orange charge light. Now I know the blue light works. 1.7 volts. According to my diode tester, it's not reading anything. I know this solder joint over here is not, it's kind of crumbling away on me. But I know this blue light works. So even though it's a weak light, that doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, I could try reflowing it. But these lights are a little susceptible to being melted. Let me just turn off my microscope light. Like, I know it works, but I'm not getting a reading off my meter. Which is kind of strange how the other two lights read just fine. So do I still not get anything off this orange light? Or off the yellow Wi-Fi indicator? Could be that I might not be able to get a good connection to it. Try and pick away at it. See if it's just like surface corrosion. Getting nothing. I think I might be able to test it via the test points down here. Let me see if I can actually do that. I'll have to remember how to actually do that. If I don't get a good connection with the positive end, maybe I can get a good connection with the negative. I am getting a reading for that. Interesting. Well, there's the red light. There's the orange light. I guess as long as it's just a negative connection, they must all connect to ground or something. Oh no, this one doesn't. So I wonder if the Wi-Fi light's on like a different circuit than the orange and blue. There's the red. This one not the blue? There's orange. There's red. This one? No. Has to be this one. Let me go to continuity. Test point 9. It'd be odd for these not to connect. Maybe I just picked away the whatever was remaining of that solder joint. That one connects to that test point. I know the cluster of 4 test points I'm probing should be to these LEDs. But it's just possible that those solder traces are just gone. Or those joints are just completely eroded away. Me picking at it probably didn't help. So let me get those reflown, I guess. Very perplexing. Because the blue light obviously should still work. I mean, it was working just fine. But they do not look good up here. Probably gonna have to add just a little blob of solder on all of those connection points. Yeah, that's nice. God, I don't even... Really don't want to melt these LEDs. But I'm not able to get solder to stick on that one. No bueno. Won't claim that it's too far gone, but it's not looking good. I have to try and see if I can scrape away. I think I may have gotten a little on there. It's a little hard to tell with the solder iron or all the flux. I'm scraping away something because every time I sort of rub back and forth, just more and more crap just comes up. I don't think it's the LED that's melting. I suppose is very possible. Get my fume extractor on before I smoke myself out. Well, I got solder to stick to something. Let me clean it off so I can kind of see what's going on. And I mean, this black stuff is probably also flux. And it kind of coagulates like that. Yeah, looks like I got a joint on the positive side of the blue light. It means it looks like I have the makings of a joint on the yellow light. It's not connecting to the LED itself. Get the rest of this picked off. I'm kind of picking away at the solder mask a little bit. Okay, let me see if I can now bridge to that LED light. Not very receptive to accepting solder for some reason. Should be getting plenty hot enough. I mean, I'll give it a shot. It's really not wanting to grab onto solder in the way I was expecting. I don't know if I can get my probe in there on that LED itself. Well, I suppose I'll give it a shot and see kind of where I'm at. See if that did anything. Okay, I'm still in continuity. Get these lights turned off so I can see. Aren't I getting any connection to this test point? Shouldn't there be a test point? It's right here on test point 12. So then this should work to ignite that light. I could try it on another board, actually. I have another power board sitting right here. Oh, I'm not on diode. That would explain that. Still nothing. Oh. So I do get it to ignite on my other board. 1.8 volts. I have completely nothing when I'm connecting to this test point. What if I try and get in there, touch the legs of the LED that I weren't able to get to? This might be a little difficult. I mean, I'm getting nothing. Do I get a resistance value through these normally? The diode, it shouldn't have. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to test resistance through it. Okay, let me test the blue light then. Whichever one it was. I mean, it's not it's not a fantastic light. Wonder what the test point is for the blue light then. Hmm. Because I thought all of these test points should be leading to a specific contact. Like, I think this big thick trace is ground or neutral. The first, so this one should be leading to the backside of, so that means in order to get this to ignite, I'd be running across that trace. Negative on the 9, and then positive end. Yeah, so I'm able to get that on this board. I think that LED is just completely kapooped. I mean, and I surely didn't help it along. Even that blue LED, it's just like whatever like corrosion got on it just made it very difficult for solder to stick to its legs. Let me see if I have any like orange LEDs. If anything, I can just pick them off of a bad board. It's like a lemonade kind of yellow. Okay, I do have yellow. I hope it's not like more of an orange. Give it a shot. I mean, don't necessarily have a use for all of these LEDs that I bought, so there might as well try to use them. Now removing them is another problem. That was easy. Looks like those pads tinned up kind of nicely as well. Try and install this without losing it. These things are really small. I need to determine the polarity. It's positive that way. Need to flip it over. And it being a little crooked is a little annoying. Need to kind of encourage it to go a little straighter. I mean, it won't be as good as a pick and place machine. Nothing I do really well. But it's on there. Well, let's see now what happens. If I can ignite it. So the small trace is the negative, so test point 9 will be the negative, and then just the positive. Ah, it's about the same color. Look at that. Fixed. Well, fantastic. That was definitely a little extracurricular sort of fix, but I don't get to deal with the LEDs very often, because this power board's otherwise fine. Let me just make sure I get it really nice and cleaned off. I mean, it's not pretty. I'll definitely have to check it just to make sure that the alignment doesn't run into any issues. Shouldn't. And I mean, while I'm here, I can work on putting this one back on too. I don't know what the hell knocked it off. Its solder pad. That actually might not be knocked off. It might just be... That's how the pick and place machine plopped it down. It just maybe like a puff of air or something. Something moved it. I never actually checked to see if it worked. I just noticed that was weird. It looks like it's grabbing onto the leg. It might be fine. Oh. I don't even think that's even on. But it does work. Yeah, it's connected, which is weird. So, I mean, that's just probably how the pick and place machine did it. Let me see if I can straighten it out. Or at least put a little more solder on it so it's holding on to the whole LED and not just like one tiny little leg. Because I found this was just really unusual. And I mean, these LEDs are pretty well protected. Water damage is one thing, but like physical damage like that is a complete other thing. I don't think I'm going to try and straighten it. I'm just going to maybe just see if I can add more solder to it. No, I'm not getting any more to stick to it. Wow, like look at how easily that moved. So that solder joint is just barely holding on, if anything at all. See if I can just sort of straighten it out. Ooh. Yeah, I just completely broke it off. Broke off one of the legs. Okay, I got that joint on. Because the little LED kind of forks out into two prongs, and I broke off the left prong. The only thing that was holding this LED on. Oh, I think this entire trace is moving on me. Oh no, that might be the underside of the LED. I think I may have broken it. So let me try it. It at least looks a lot better, but I think I broke the underside of the LED. Or it could be just that was the piece I broke off. It's a little hard to say. Let me first just do a test on it. So this is test point probably 11. 11 goes from the positive, so I'll put the positive there. Negative onto this via. Yeah, I think I snapped it. No, I'm not getting anything. I'm on diode. I'm going the right way. Neat. Okay. Not necessarily intentional, but that's just how it is. Let me see if I can take it off and see what it looks like. If I did really break it in half. Or if there's anything I can do to salvage it. No? That leg is still there. I mean, what I'm doing to it right now isn't good. Yeah, it still should be attached. Really want to use these OG LEDs because I don't know if I have the right color. I mean, now it really feels like it's grabbing onto that a lot better than it did before. Still a little crooked, but considering that the one half of the LED sort of wasn't really making a good connection to begin with, is about as probably as good as I can get it. Maybe this is not the right test point. No, that's red. Yeah, I think I may have killed it. Well, wish I could look at this little LED a little closer. Yeah, maybe just like that mounting leg just isn't enough to make a contact. Pads at least look good. I mean, I could put an orange LED there. That one probably is a lot more appropriate than for the Wi-Fi light. That Wi-Fi light might be a weird color. And that would at least be a stopgap solution. It'll be an indicator light, because it doesn't really matter what color it is. I can make it green, really. I'll just do orange again. Same orange I used on the Wi-Fi light. I mean, if it's weirdly colored enough, I will replace it off of a junk board, but for now, this will just be a solution. And I mean, I could never say no to a little more practice when it comes to soldering stuff this small. Even if this is useless and I have to redo it, it's still valuable to me. Need your needle. I think I see the polarity. There it is. Okay. So I need to go this way. I need to flip it around. Thankfully, I can kind of see it from the top that the little green denotes up. And get those, and then I'll try and nudge it into position. Which will not really work out very well, but I mean, it'll be good enough to make a connection. Okay, that's one side. Feels like it's a little lifted. I mean, not that bad, but it looks like it's connected. Alright, let's try this out again. See if we got an orange light. So I should be... This one right here is the positive. Aha! Yeah, it's more of a yellow, not an orange, but you know what? It's an indicator light. I'll just have to see how it looks like inside a console. If it looks way too similar to the Wi-Fi light, then I don't have a LED that's the same color orange as the official charge light. But again, I think practice in itself is valuable. I think if I was to do these LEDs again, I would remove the solder, because trying to use the old solder mounds, well, it just means that I can't let them sit flush against the board. I have to sort of push them into the mounds of solder. Which, I mean, it works. It's not going to inhibit anything, but it just doesn't look... It's a little harder to solder them on than if they were, like, fresh pads. Because then I could add the amount of solder I need, instead of relying on just the giant mountain of solder that's already there. I mean, okay. I know I'm doing a lot of work on power boards. There's one more I need to fix. This one, a little easier. Pretty sure I blew the F1 fuse when I was actually getting voltage for that no sound board. Let me check it again. I'm pretty sure this fuse is just completely done. Dunzo. Continuity test. Yeah, it's nothing, so I popped that fuse. Since I'm here, I got my iron and my microscope set up, I'll just go ahead and do it. This is very similar to the LEDs in a way, but I'm less careful with the fuses. They're a little more robust. And I have more of them. I mean, I bought several hundred of them. But principally, they're the exact same type of installation. I just don't have to worry about polarity. It is right here. I don't want to lose it. Little buggers are small. I do have to remove the old one, so I'll put the new one right there. Blub blub blub. this iron tip might not be the best for what I'm trying to do. Removing it. There it goes. Boy. Don't stick back on there, you little dickhead. Plunk. Alright, and then the new one. F. Although it doesn't necessarily matter, I'll try to align it. The F facing up. It's a little more aesthetically pleasing. I'll have to clean off my tweezers. Just a problem for later. That thing I was saying about contending with mounds of solder. There we go. Not the prettiest, but that will do the job. I'll test it. Now, I will test it, but I'll clean it off first. Fuses are pretty simple. I'm going to turn my light back on. There, I mean, not exactly flat on there, nor is it straight, but hey, it's a fuse. That crap up there, I was kind of being a little hard with my solder iron, so I may have rubbed that away. No, it's a little bit of solder flux. All right, so for continuity again. I have continuity through the fuse. Perfecto. Prep my iron, get some solder on it to put away. I think I'm going to call it there. It was a mighty successful day. to mark that those are been repaired, and I'll need to test them specifically. I mean, aside from kind of cleaning up here, I think that's gonna be it. I'm glad I was able to find out why it had no sound and it wasn't just a wild goose chase. Always good when that happens. Sweet.